Thanks, Rashmi, for that. I think you can hear me. Just in the interest of time, we can get started. So, as you know, this is like a sort of ask me anything session. I can give a brief introduction about myself, and then I can take some questions from you. So hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lakshya Sivaramakrishnan. This is probably my fourth Women Who Code conference. Women Who Code has been a community that I've contributed to in the past, in addition to a few others. Right now, I work as a technical program manager for Google. Prior to this, I have done, work as a program manager in the developer relations team, and prior to that, I was working with Cerner Healthcare in their business analytics team. Before that, I started my career as a software engineer with GE Healthcare. So there has been a lot of career shifts, but AI was something I got very close to as part of Cerner, and then it continued um, through my role in as a program manager for Google Developer Relations. Um, Through that, I tried finding avenues to upskill myself, to sort of do a lot of talks and workshops on the topic to get more familiar. Did a bunch of talks at conferences like Grace Hopper and the Women in Leadership conference that happened in Goa a few years back. Recently, Analytics India magazine also awarded me the Women in AI award last year. So AI has been close to me. uh, I'm happy to take any questions you have either in the stream, anything you want to chat about. I'm happy to share my experiences. Yeah, and if you can't speak, feel free to use the chat box. I can read your questions there and give you an answer. No questions? What was your expectation out of this session, if I may ask? Okay. Money, I can answer that. So, technical program manager is basically a glue between product, engineering, business, and marketing. So, our primary responsibilities is to ensure that processes are in place. We're tracking tasks. There is no slippages. If there is, how do you do some of those risk mitigations and things like that? Typically, you're responsible for various feature launches. Um, and yeah, it's very interesting because you're working very close with product managers, engineering managers, sort of getting their insights on how a product should look, and you are acting that intermediary between all of these cross-functional teams. So that's what I do as a technical program manager. Um, Jinita, is it necessary to get a formal degree in AI, or what sources do you recommend for getting interest into working profile? Okay. So something that has worked for me is while I was in GE Healthcare, my manager suggested that I do a certification. That certification was sponsored by GE. The content was formulated by GE. It was called an Analytics Engineer certification. So I had to go through a bunch of courses. It was very early days of online MOOCs or online courses. So to do a couple of courses and then do a case study, like a project, to actually earn that certification. That sort of helped me transition into the role at Cerner, um, which helped me do a lot of data science, machine learning, building models, and things like that. So, to your question, is a formal degree required? I would say it depends. I know for a fact that VMware as an organization is very supportive of sponsoring for higher education. Like there is an upgrad course that IEEE conducts in data science and AI, and VMware sponsors that. There are a lot of other organizations who sponsor courses. So given if you think you can manage that in addition to your regular courses, feel free to do something like that. But I wouldn't say a formal degree is required. It's more of how do you build credibility around that topic. Are you making community contributions? Are you coming across an expert on that topic? Are you able to deliver a workshop and help 50 other people understand what you're trying to say? I think those things matter much more than a formal degree. A formal degree, of course, might be like a shortcut for you to get some of these opportunities, but it's definitely not mandatory. Like, I did not have a formal degree in AI before I jumped into that role. It was just a bunch of certifications, upskilling that you do by the side. Um, okay. Uh, Please tell us about your experience on how you got into AI. AI is such a broad category. What would you recommend the starting point? Would it be machine learning, then deep learning? Of course, like, hi Sandhya.
Hi everyone. Sorry, there is another session which got delayed. So yes, hope we'll start. Or I mean, are you answering some questions?
Sandhya, so initially I just gave a brief introduction. I wasn't sure if anybody else is going to join,
Yeah.
so I just
Sorry.
gave a brief introduction and started taking a few questions. But if you have anything, I could probably wait till, or I'll just answer one question and then I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, sure. I see a request from Supriya. Is she a part of the panel or is it by accident?
Supriya, I don't see.
Okay, I mean, I am the moderator, right? So I see a request. So I mean, you are the only person who will take over the session, right? So I am canceling
I
the
think
request.
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think
Then
so.
yes. Okay.
Okay.
I'll leave the stage.
Sure. So, Rashmi, yes, completely agree. AI is a very broad category. In fact, we speak so much about. In fact, AI is something that was even known a few decades back. It's just that it's got more prominence and relevance now because of the available of compute and larger machines, more powerful machines, and hence we can play around with even probably petabytes of data. Definitely, machine learning is a starting point, and then like once you understand some of the basics of model building, validation and things like that, that's when you can go into deep learning because that has obviously higher degree of complexity. Um, what would be a good starting point? I think I started from very basic. I used to follow this data scientist called Josh Gordon. So he had this series on YouTube called Machine Learning Recipes. And he sort of, I mean, what fascinated me was he said you can build your first machine learning model with 6 lines of code. So that was like one of the first things I started with. And then in the sidelines, I did use, online platforms like DataCamp, Coursera to learn a few more details. There was a machine learning crash course, which was like freely available to all. It was by Google at that point in time. So I sort of like learned a few of the basics from there. Um, there is no shortage of resources. It's about how you carefully choose on what you want to invest your time and energy in. Kaggle is a great platform for you to get more hands-on. Just getting on that leaderboard gives you tons of confidence. So yeah, these are a few things you can try about. Academic courses are research oriented. I think I'm not sure if it's too different, if industry is too different because you're just working with real sets of data. And but the concepts and the principles are same. You have to clean the data, you have to build a model, you have to sort of validate with test data, training data, etc. So and then compute the metrics. So I think that doesn't change. And your academic courses definitely are a strong foundation for you to work in the industry with like real data. Um, how do I choose between AI and development at undergrad level? I think Nipuna, it really depends. Um, so during my time, I don't even think we had courses like AI in our undergrad. We were just taught Java. Even Python was not there. I'm sure courses today have really evolved. So it's really up to you whether are you happy writing code in say Java or C or C Sharp or Python, or you are or Go, or you're like, are you more interested in software development and building software, or are you more interested in sort of helping people draw insights, add some intelligence into those features using machine learning? That's a call you need to take, and then you'll be able to choose between AI and development. Like I know a few people who do not enjoy coding, but who love playing around with data, who love setting processes up, who love adding the intelligence, and they sort of tend to choose the AI route. Um, I heard that deploying the model is hard and not feasible, and academic courses never touch upon that part. Yeah, Mani, I've heard it too. In fact, I think of late I've seen a lot of sessions, online sessions being conducting on just deployment, deploying a model, either using cloud, any of the cloud platforms, or what really goes into architecting a problem. These are some things that are not really covered in academic courses, but as you come into the industry, you will either come across sessions. There are a lot of sessions conducted internally by folks. Either that will help you, or just talking to an architect or a senior person in the team might sort of help you. Um, so yeah, deployment is hard, but I think I'm sure unless it's unless the model is deployed and seen in production, your users cannot see the hard work that you've put in. So yeah, it's just part of the journey. How to be prepared and equipped for a managerial role in AI? How to transition to such a role? Um, Rashmi, I would say it's important to start with the basics. It depends on where you are in your career. If you're in early career with say between 5 to 7 years of experience, I would say you'll have to wait a little longer to get into a managerial role in AI, because it's important to prove yourself as an individual contributor, to show the skills that you're ready to help and support other members in the team whom you can mentor, and that will help you transition into a managerial role. So it definitely takes time, and that time can be used to build your expertise on the topic even further. I hope that answered your question. Yes, Sandhya, over
Okay,
to you.
so let us start the session officially. So there are like a lot of questions, and thank you so much for answering them. So let's get started. And I see so many people already, so it's a bit late welcoming them, but still I'll do it. Great afternoon, everyone, and welcome you all for the fifth annual conference of Women Who Code Connect India 2021, sponsored by VMware. So, as you all know, we have Lakshya here, who is the speaker of our session. So, let me talk a few words about Lakshya. Lakshya Sivaramakrishnan is a technical program manager at Google. She works with Payments Merchant India team. She's a TEDx speaker and a data scientist. She's also a data science enthusiast and a diversity and inclusion advocate. She has received the Women in AI Leadership Award by Analytics India magazine and the Women in Corporate Allies Emerging Diversity Champion Award by Women's Web in 2020. She is a Shenomics Lead Like a Girl Fellow. She enjoys nurturing communities and empowering women to join, thrive, and lead the tech industry. So, such an inspiring personality we have today, and she'll be talking on how do we design our career paths in artificial intelligence. So, let's hear from Lakshya. Lakshya, please, and welcome to the panel.
Thanks, Sandhya. I think I've already given like a short brief of my journey into AI, and then we started answering a few questions. So if you have any more questions, feel free to keep dropping them. We still about have about 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, if for folks who've joined late, just feel free to drop any questions you have on chat box. We just spoke about my initial journey and my transition into AI, and how being part of communities, how take conducting some of those workshops and sessions for community actually gave me confidence to transition into like a deep core tech role. So yeah, happy to answer any questions. Okay, Sandhya, I did answer that question to Mani. But yeah, just for the benefit of others, I think the role that I do is that of a technical program manager. So basically, the responsibility is that you're an intermediary between product, engineering, business, and marketing. So it is your duty to ensure that tasks happen in timeline. If there are any blockers, how do you mitigate them? If there are any risks, how do you work through unblocking your team members about it? How do you put a process? How do you put a method in the madness in actually ensuring a successful feature launch? Uh, yeah, typically that's what a program manager does. Um, Money, I don't think it will like not having a CS background will really hamper too much because something that's very crucial for machine learning and data science is how you apply logic, how do you play around with data, how do you understand data, and computer science fundamentals are not like a make or break. Now, at the same time, as a computer science student, there are a few algorithms that you might learn. There are a few data structures that you learn, which probably you might not have the full, knowledge about unless you've like learned it in the site. But I am sure that will not hamper you from being a good data scientist. Because today there are so many libraries available. In whichever language you're planning. Primarily, I've seen a lot of Python. There are so many libraries available, so many helper tools available. So that shouldn't really deter you from playing around with data and giving, building models, getting the right insights and things like that. Definitely, there are a lot of opportunities out there. In fact, when I started out somewhere around 2014, 2015, this field was still relatively new. But I think in just about 5, 6 years' time, this field in itself has really evolved. You come across so many data science roles. You find events that are specifically focused for data scientists, for women data scientists. There are Kaggle competitions that happen. And things like that. So there is definitely enough opportunities out there. I think it's just a matter of identifying them. If you're a student, I would say a great place to start would be try Kaggle. You can also see how others write their code, understand from them. There are enough, challenges or quiz or there are problem statements given to you that you can pick up and answer, and that's going to give you a lot of confidence when you enter the industry. Any other questions? How have you updated yourself in the past 4 5 years with advances? Yeah, I think the important thing to stay relevant is just to be like, for me personally, one formula that I've applied is I have been part of many communities where every year there are events like these that are organized, and there are data science topics discussed. So you sort of stay relevant by just being part of communities, like say women in data science, women who code. There's so many others, right? So that has really helped me. The other thing is just self-study. So whenever you find time, just read up on these things. And honestly, it's up to you. If do you want to get into deep learning, or are you happy with just playing around, doing building basic data pipelines, and are you satisfied with just building some of those machine learning models, right? If that is satisfying to you, then so be it. But if you're doing that, if you're saturated, you want something more challenging, you want to get into more upcoming technologies like deep learning, read some of those papers that a lot of organizations publish. Many of them are open source. Take a read of all of that, and that will also help you stay relevant. Um, See, I would say, how do I answer this? So I would say machine learning is a big problem, is a problem, which is like a subset of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has much more. It has deep learning. It has a lot of more advanced and sophisticated methods. Natural language processing is one of the techniques that you use if you have text in your data, right? So I would say, depending on the problem statement that you're trying to solve, if you are in a space of, say, digital content moderation, right? If you're working for a company or a startup that's into digital moderation of text, you need to know NLP. So a lot of it is also project dependent. Um, and I personally feel about 70% of learning happens on the job. So if you have to learn NLP, you have to understand some of those basics, right? What is TF, IDF, and things like that. And that's something you can do only when you have the data, right? So, um, yeah, my answer to that would be, it is an ocean. It's always a good start to start with machine learning as a broad topic, and then decide which is the vertical you want to deep dive into. Is that working with text data? Is that working with numerical data? Or is it working with data where you have to clean it, you have to pass it to, say, more discrete forms? It's totally up to you, and it's mainly dependent on the project need and project ask. You're welcome, Rashmi. Uh, so the topic for the masters, I'm finding it hard to narrow down to a problem statement plus choosing a trending topic. Hmm, I do not have enough skills. Can you guide me? I think money. This is something that every student goes through. So I would say that order is correct. I think it's important. And when I go back to my undergrad days, I think the most important is for you to choose a problem statement that you're passionate about. In fact, we had one more layer of complexity where we had to even choose a team that we want to work with. So I would say find a problem statement that you want to work on. It could be an available data set on Kaggle, right? And you look to work on gathering some insights. Or it could be a classification problem. Predicting if probably a credit card customer or a credit card transaction is fraudulent. It could be any project that you pick. Um, that should be your first step. Choosing a professor obviously is dependent on the problem statement. I'm sure every professor has a list of what they've mastered and what they've specialized in. Pick a professor who has done work closest to what your problem statement is. I don't think it's important to choose a trending topic. I think what's the most important is the problem statement you choose and how you look to solve it. What methods you choose is again dependent on your problem statement. So don't worry too much about that. And one of the things which might not directly be related to AI is always have a growth mindset. Every skill, we're all not born with all the skills. Every skills can be, trained, developed, if you have the will to do it. So it is a very bold thing that somebody who's not from a CS background is so passionate about something like data science. That's a great start. So why don't you upskill yourself in some of those skills that are required to ensure that you completely um, and successfully complete your thesis, right? Um, as opposed to the industry where the problem is defined. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of problems. If you just do a Google search on data science problem statements, you will get a million searches, right? Just pick something that is of interest to you, and I think that should solve it. With experience more than 7 years, can someone go into AI and ML as career transition? Ras, I think of course yes. Um, but it depends on if you're okay to start off as a fresher in the field, right? If you have had, say, experience of 6 years of Java and you're like extremely proficient, you're probably the go-to person for your team in that technology. And suddenly, when you're transitioning into any new technology, be it blockchain, be it AI, ML, you might have to spend the first few months or years as a fresher again, as somebody who doesn't know all the answers, as somebody who might have to go to their junior and understand some of those things. As long as you're okay and comfortable with that, I know a lot of people who have transitioned into the AIML career, and these are very senior leaders, so it's definitely a possibility. But the most important thing is have an open mind and learn from wherever that comes. Like don't look into hierarchy, years of experience, and things like that. Yeah, I think we are over time, but I'm happy to take one or two more questions before we wrap the session. You're welcome. All the best, Mani. Yeah, glad to hear that. How do you design your resume for AIML? I think you just have to do a lot of projects, attend a lot of competitions, um, and put those things. I mean, the resume format doesn't change, right? It's just about what are the projects that you're putting in there, what is the experience, what are your goals that you're actually writing there as a summary. So there's nothing different that an AIML resume has. It's more about the kind of problems that you solve. What is your expertise? Are you an expert in NLP? Are you an expert in just building data models? What is it? That should really come out in your resume. And there are a lot of companies having a lot of different asks. Depending on what is a good profile fit, you might probably get called for interviews, for example. Cool. Any last questions, or else we can wrap the session up? How can I be part or member of Women Who Code and Women Tech Makers and contribute? I think for Women Tech Makers, it is a global program. So you just go to womentechmakers.com and you apply for their membership. You will get access to curated content every 10 to 15 days. Um, for Women Who Code, they obviously have a meetup page. So register there to know about all the events. There are a lot of events that happen through Women Who Code. So you will get access to those events. In fact, Women Who Code Connect is just one of them. It's just a big annual event that happens, but there are a lot of smaller events that happen that Women Who Code conducts as well. So I think these two should help you start contributing. Cool. If there are no other questions, thank you all so much. I'm sure I was wondering what will we talk for half an hour, but I think we were just short of time, in fact. So thank you so much for your enthusiasm for asking all those questions. I hope I was able to, give you the right answers and guide you in some sense. So all the best. Yes, Sandhya, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lakshya. And I see the chat box flooded. Like, this is the most interactive session ever hosted in these 2 days of Women Who Code. Thank you so much for all the questions, and you're really patient enough, and you read out all the questions and took time to answer everybody's questions. So it's really nice having you on board. So thank you so much for accepting our invite, and it's really nice listening to you, and looking forward to more such sessions. So audience, thank you so much for sticking all round for almost 30 more minutes. I mean, it's like, okay, we got extended, but still the questions are so, excited, and we can't say no, right? So so yes, thank you so much. So yes, stay home, stay safe, and there are other sessions which are running parallelly. So if there is anything which you are interested, just hop in, and feel free to ask questions there also. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sandhya.